Here's a pitch on the way. He swings and fouls it off, and the man from Walla Walla will take that one home. Swing, there's a drive to left. That one is long gone.
Now, I might have been a small part of your life, but you've been a very large part of mine. And it's my privilege and honor to share with you the greatest game of all.
What's up, nation? AJ Reilly here again for another episode of The Corner, talking about Major League Baseball, talking about our Detroit Tigers. We got a huge show on tap with the AllStar Game coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to recap the previous series from Chicago, preview the upcoming series here in Kansas City that starts Monday in a doubleheader, and then we're going to have a little discussion about Javi Baez and his antics. But before we get to any of that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Detroit Sports Nation, for all Detroit sports content. You can also follow The Corner on Twitter at DSN at The Corner for Tigers updates, scorecards, Tigers news, anything. Let's just talk baseball at Twitter. But I want to lead off today, and I want to talk about the All-Star Game that is coming up this weekend. There are only 2 series left before the All-Star break. And the schedule of importance, the things that really matter, right? Like the celebrity softball game, nobody really cares about that. But some things that do matter that you should be aware of coming up this weekend is the Futures game, which starts Saturday night at 7 p.m. It's played in Dodger Stadium. There's also going to be the Home Run Derby presented by T-Mobile, which is on Monday evening. And then Tuesday is the All-Star Game. Now, being someone who loves baseball, I love the All-Star Game. There's just a lot of fun, a lot of good times, baseball being played the way that baseball is meant to be played, with hats backwards and guys having fun and laughing and bringing their video cameras and kids on the field. And you truly get the sense that it is a kids game around the All-Star Game. And for me, it's a fun time. I love watching the All-Star Game. When they attached World Series home field advantage to the All-Star Game starting in 2002, that was a terrible move, truthfully. Bud Selig made that decision, and it just did not. It took away from the fun, the exhibition aspect of it. And then in 2017, they actually removed that rule, which was fantastic. So there's no longer does the winning team of the All-Star Game get home field advantage in the World Series. It goes based on winning percentage, as it should. So the best team gets to be the home field, or have the home field advantage for the World Series. But one thing, they made a change to the Home Run Derby a few years ago where they put them on a clock, and it has been the injection of adrenaline that I think the Home Run Derby needed. When guys could just take pitch after pitch until they got 10 outs, it just seemed to drag on. Now that it just moves and guys are swinging and making contact, and it's a lot of fun to watch. So definitely tune in on Monday for the Home Run Derby a week from today, and then next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, for the All-Star Game. And the Tigers are going to have a couple of representatives. We know that Miguel Cabrera was chosen as a legacy selection by Commissioner Rob Manfred. Him and Albert Pujols will be added to the roster. So it's very clear that we make this distinction here. They are not taking somebody's spot. There are 32 All-Star roster spots. The legacy selection, special selections is what they call them, are just an addition to. It gives Rob Manfred the power to appoint a player of historical significance to each roster. There's an article on CBS.com, CBSSports.com, that speaks about this, but in that article they specifically talked about how Manfred gained the ability to appoint this special selection as part of the new collective bargaining agreement between MLB and the MLB Players Association. And Miguel Cabrera, who said that after next year is going to be his final year, this was a perfect opportunity for Manfred to put Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera, both who are retiring within the next 2 years, Albert after this year, Miggy after the following year, into an All-Star game based on what they have accomplished, not in 2022, but over the span of their careers. We're talking about two of the greatest right-handed hitters that, one, I've ever seen, but potentially ever. Two guys who are fantastic talents, who represented their countries well, and who will be surefire Hall of Famers. There's no reason not to have them celebrating one of their final All-Star games with the young crop of talent in LA this next weekend. There's nothing wrong with these guys being involved. They're not going to be starting. They're not going to get the majority of the run out in the field, but they are going to be there. It's almost like a passing of the torch situation, and I think it's a fantastic addition to the All-Star game. Now, the other representative for the Tigers is Gregory Soto, which is a little bit of a surprise. He's been a decent closer. I think he saved 17 out of 19 games. His ERA is relatively low. He's consistently wild, or I guess we could say effectively wild. But regardless, he's not even the best pitcher in the bullpen. And I would argue probably not even the most deserving to go to the All-Star game this year. If I had a vote, it would have been for Michael Fulmer. Michael Fulmer, I think, has been better than Gregory Soto this year, specifically out of the bullpen. And truthfully, Fulmer's been, aside from Sunday where he had a little bit of bad luck in left field, which we will talk about, he's been dominant, very dominant. So it's very surprising that Soto was selected. I guess it makes sense given that he's not the setup man, but he is the closer. But it is a little bit surprising. Congratulations. I don't want to take anything away from him. Like, back-to-back All-Star appearances for Gregory Soto. Congratulations. Like, represent us. Hope you do well. I would have gone a little bit of a different direction. Regardless of who is there, the All-Star game is taking place next week. A week from, the Home Run Derby starts a week from today, and it's going to be a good time. I would suggest you tune in just to enjoy the entertainment of it. Have fun, and enjoy the game of baseball the way that baseball is meant to be played, from a kid's perspective, relaxed, energized. It's going to be a blast. I know I'll be tuning in. I'll be watching the All-Star game. I'm excited to see what takes place. Now, moving from the leadoff, let's get into our Detroit Tigers talk, and let's talk about this last series, a 4-game series in Chicago, where the Tigers split. And I told you in the preview, this is what they have to do. They need to be able to split. Anything less than a split would have been a failure, and winning a series would have been icing on the cake. So right in between that is a split of the series. And truthfully, leading into this series, they were on a 4-game win streak, having swept the Guardians at home, and then they won the first 2 games. So we ended up with our longest win streak of 2022, and the boys are playing great baseball. In fact, in our first 2 games, we saw very good bounce backs from 2 of our younger pitchers. Bo Brisky went 6 1/3 innings, gave up 2 hits, no runs, and had 4 Ks. The Tigers won that game 2-1. How many games have the Tigers won this year when they have not scored more than 3 runs? It's not many. It's probably not even double digits. But they did. They won 2-1. Javi Baez hit a home run in Game 1. We're going to talk about Javi and his antics a little bit later in the show. But that set the tone for the series. Then the Tigers come out. They go down. Tarek Skubal gives up a 2-run bomb. Absolute missile to left field off of the bat of Luis Robert. They go down 2-0. But the Tigers come back and scratch and claw and dig their way out of that deficit and ultimately win the game 7-5. And Skubal pitched well. It was a great bounce back for our young ace, even though I'm done calling him an ace, because the moment everybody started calling him an ace, he stopped pitching like it. So let's slow down. Let's tap the brakes on the labels a little bit, and let's just let the kid pitch. He looked good. He did a great job getting deeper into the game and letting the bullpen do what it's designed to do. And then we got to Game 3 on Saturday, which didn't start well. We're down 6-0 after 2 innings. Garrett Hill was making his second start in major leagues. His first start, we know, was historically good, but he struggled in the first 2 innings. Now, he has been optioned down to AAA. They recalled Drew Carlton, specifically with the doubleheader that is later today. But we have to give Garrett Hill a little bit of props here, because he was at 56 pitches through 2 innings. 56 pitches. Now, on average, if you want a non-stressful inning, pitchers are looking anywhere between 12 to 15 pitches per inning. That's a good pitch count. He blew that out of the water in the first 2 innings. 56 pitches. But yet still got through 5. Still battled, settled in, and actually held them down. He had given up 6 runs, so let's not overstate the case. But he settled in and did not allow them to add to the deficit. But what is lost in this streak-breaking loss is the offense was quiet. Johnny Cueto went 8 innings. Johnny Cueto was Johnny Cueto of old. He was fantastic. Nearly unhittable. And the Tigers didn't do much but scrape out a couple of singles. It took till, I think, the 4th or 5th inning for us to even get a guy on second base into scoring position. And then Sunday, Javi Baez hits a first-inning home run with some antics. We're going to talk about it. And the Tigers are winning 2-0. Then the score's 2-1. And Drew Hutchinson pitched well. Went 6 innings. Alex Lane comes in, shuts the door, 2-1. And then in the 8th inning, he struggled. Michael Fulmer gets 2 outs. And then, pop out to left field. Or pop up. I shouldn't say pop out because it was not an out. But a pop up to left field that you could tell right off the bat Grossman was having problems with. Now listen, I'm not going to bag on Grossman. My man has gone years without making an error. I'm not going to bag on him. But that cost us the game. Clearly cost us the game. Roberts on second base. They intentionally walk. Jose Abreu. Bring in Gregory Soto. And first pitch to A.J. Pollock. He hits a little nubber up the middle that just out of the reach of Jonathan Scope, who was in the shift. And we got a 3-2 ball game. They push across another run. Now it's 4-2. And the Tigers end up winning. Or losing, I'm sorry. They end up losing 4-2. Coming out of Chicago with a 2-game split. They won 2, they lost 2. And they set their sights now as they travel to Kansas City. And they did what they needed to do against Chicago. They did exactly what they needed. They got a split. Yes, it would have been nice to win, but you can't win every game. They need to win every game from here on out, but they're not going to. So a split is good. Which sets the attention now to Kansas City. And we've just played Kansas City. So let's, there's not, I don't want to get into the numbers again. We've just done this in a preview. It's something that the schedule is the way that it is. The Tigers are playing something like 18 games in 17 days before the All-Star break with a doubleheader right after the All-Star break. The schedule is nuts for these guys because of the lockout. Because of the fact that they could not start opening day when they had scheduled opening day. So now we have 4 games in 3 days against Kansas City in Kansas City. We're going to face Brad Keller, game 1 of the doubleheader on Monday. Brad Keller shut us down in Comerica Park last week. He's going to face off against Michael Pineda. Hopefully Michael Pineda can continue to be steady Eddie. He's not going to blow the socks off of anybody. He's not going to just dominate. But hopefully he can get 5-6 innings, get back into the bullpen with a lead, hopefully. And the key in game 1 is going to be getting the Brad Keller early. If we allow him to establish that slider that he was throwing the other week and dominating with, we're in trouble. The bats have got to pick up. Now, we've gone into Kansas City and won a series previously. So hopefully we can do the same because this is a little bit of a revenge series. Remember what I said last weekend? This was just last weekend, before they swept the Guardians. I told you that if they lost the series to the Kansas City Royals, that it was an utter failure. It was an utter failure. They lost the series. They ended up sweeping the Guardians, going on a 6-game run. That kind of creates a little bit of hope, but this team is what this team is. So this is a little bit of a revenge series. In Game 2 Monday night, you're going to get Daniel Lynch against Alex Faedo. Faedo's he's coming off that little bit of a hip injury. I wouldn't expect him to go for more than 5 innings. Going to be on a very limited pitch count. Going to almost be like a bullpen game. On Tuesday, lefty Chris Bubich is going to be facing off against Bo Brisky. We're looking for Bo to build on the outing that he had against the White Sox in this previous series. And then Game 4 on Wednesday at 2:10 is going to be Brady Singer against Tarek Skubal. Now, Brady Singer, he works fast. He was dominant. He went 9 strikeouts and 4 2/3 innings against us in the previous series. Him and Skubal faced off last time. We know these pitchers. We've just seen them within the last 10 days. So there's no new information for me to give you or to preview other than to say we got to make adjustments. It's got to be different than it was when they were here at Comerica Park. Because if you want to win a series, you've got to get to these pitchers. Now, in previews, we always talk about what do they do well and what don't they do. Here's the deal. I've given this to you before. The Royals statistically are not a fantastic team. They're not a fantastic team. In fact, they're sitting at, I think, 32 and 52. Okay, they are 4 games worse than the Tigers. Statistically, in the standings. But you know what they do well? They beat us. That's what they do. They find a way to play hard against us. I don't know what it is about them standing on their head when they play the Tigers. But for whatever reason, they are not a 32 and 52 team when they play the Tigers. They have an all-star in Benintendi, who's a fantastic average-seeking left-handed bat. Whit Merrifield, who always beats up on us. They've got some guys. We have to play them hard. We cannot play them like they're the 5th-place team in the AL Central. We have to play them like they're the 1st-place team in the AL Central. We have to play them like we played the Guardians. We have to play them like we played the White Sox. We have to play them like we've played the Twins previous series to that. It's one of those situations where you cannot play down to your competition. And over this year specifically, and specifically looking at the series 10 days ago, they played down to the competition. I'd like to think that on paper we're a better team than the Kansas City Royals. And I'd like to think that we come out of this 4-game set in 3 days with a series win. Anything less than a split is an utter failure. I will repeat this against the Kansas City Royals again. Anything less than a split. So losing this series is an utter failure. Now, over this last week, since they left Comerica Park, they've been swept by the Astros in a 4-game series, and then they won 2 out of 3 from the Guardians. So they have it. They have the opportunity. They're probably as frustrating a team to be a fan of as we are this season. But the reality is, you got to play the team in front of you. You got to get to Brad Keller right off the bat. Set the tone for the series in the first game of the doubleheader on Monday. Anything less than a split is a failure. And I expect our pitching to hold up. I expect our pitching to do well. I'd look for Pineda, for Brisky, for Skubal to build on the starts that they've had previously. And hopefully we go into this final series before the All-Star break against the Guardians in this upcoming weekend. Hopefully we go into that with another series win under our belts. So let's move to the peanut gallery. And let's talk about Javi Baez. Javi Baez was the big off-season acquisition for the Detroit Tigers to play shortstop, to come in, and to hit the ball hard. Now, one of the things that you may have noticed, and if you didn't notice it, then I think you were just living under a rock this last week. But it seems every time we travel to somebody else's ballpark, Javi is getting into it with the fans. There's a lot of talking, a lot of chirping. You get it as a Major League Baseball player all the time. I don't know if you remember back to the Giant series or even picked up on it, but in Game 1 of the Giant series, there was a guy sitting behind home plate, and every time Jonathan Scope was on deck, he kept saying, "Shoop, there it is," because apparently he doesn't know his name Scope. But anyways, you hear those kind of things all the time. And what Javi has done is when he has doubled, when he has hit home runs, he's engaged with the fans. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people that say, he doesn't need to do that, act like you've been there before, just run it out, blah, 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 blah. We hear it. It's old, it's tired, it's a terrible take. This is actually something that I love that Javi brings to our team. Look, in life, I'm all for humility. When it comes to sports, humility is maybe not the top of my list. When Javi hits a tank to left field and turns around and puts the finger up to the mouth to the fans, I love it. And you know why I love it? Look, I don't think Javi's a leader on this team. I think that Javi thrives when there are other people that lead. I think that he thrives when he has an Anthony Rizzo or a Chris Bryant like they did in 2016 when they were all teammates with the Cubs. But you know what Javi brings to this team? Swagger. Something that this team has lacked since the teardown. Something that this team has needed desperately. And he's brought it. Is the average where we want it to be? No. Do we think that he strikes out too much? You may think that, but the reality is that's just who Javi is. He's going to hit the ball hard. He's going to strike out trying. But the one thing that we cannot get away from, and the one thing that I love about this, is the swagger that Javi's bringing to the Old English Tea. We're not on this level yet, but I liken it to the Bad Boys era a little bit. That team had swagger. You knew you didn't mess with that team. And now we're coming into a series with a relief pitcher in Amir Garrett who has a bad history with Javi Baez. And I want the guy with swagger on my team when we got a guy on the other side running his mouth. If you remember back to the last weekend series, Amir Garrett was struggling against Reilly Green. Okay, a rookie that has less than 100 bats in MLB, who's been phenomenal for us and really has changed the tone of our offense. Amir Garrett was struggling against him. He ultimately got him to strike out on a 3-2 pitch that was way below the zone outside. Then he started running his mouth, held his hands up, running his mouth. And who said something to him? The guy on deck, number 28, Javi Baez. Told him, go back to the dugout. Go back to the dugout. And I know you've seen the video. I know you've seen the interaction. But I love it. You may hate it, but I love it. And I want more of it. And that's the thing about Javi, right? When he's on your team, you love that he's on your team. When he's not on your team, you probably hate the fact that he's on your team. Or not on your team. Or you're playing against him. But this is exactly what the Tigers need. The numbers will be there. I'm not concerned about that at all. But what isn't measured on the back of a scorecard, back of a baseball card, what you don't get from Fangraphs and Baseball Reference and Baseball Savant is swagger. And Javi would be plus in that category, and he's doing it wearing our Old English tee, and I absolutely freaking love it. And I want to see more of it. And I think I will this weekend when they play, or this week when they play the Kansas City Royals. So keep it up, Javi. I'm cheering for you. That's going to do it for us here on The Corner. We've previewed the series with the Kansas City Royals. Talked about the previous series with the Chicago White Sox. And I'm looking forward to a doubleheader today on Monday, a game tomorrow night on Tuesday, and then a series finale Wednesday afternoon. I will see you again before the final series, before the All-Star break with the Cleveland Guardians. And I'm looking forward to having those discussions with you then. I'm AJ Reilly. This has been The Corner. And as always, go Tigers.
Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a